The signal arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at SETI's primary listening post in New Mexico. Dr. James Morrison nearly missed it, mistaking the crystalline resonance for routine stellar noise. But as the pattern repeated, growing stronger with each pulse, his hands trembled over the controls. "This is intentional," he whispered, watching the signal's perfect mathematical sequence unfold across his screens. "This is first contact." Within hours, the world's best linguists and mathematicians descended upon the facility. The message, encoded in pure mathematical principles, painted a desperate picture. The Zorathians, a crystalline species from a star system 40 light-years distant, faced extinction. Their transmission contained their genetic structure, their history, and their plea. A silicon-based virus was consuming their civilization. The timing couldn't have been more crucial. Humanity had just completed the UES Mercy, their first faster-than-light-capable warship. The vessel, despite its military designation, carried more than just weapons. Its labs housed Earth's finest xenobiologists. Its computer cores held centuries of medical research, and its manufacturing bays could be repurposed for medical synthesis. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the Mercy's bridge, watching Earth shrink behind them. Her crew of 300 represented humanity's best chance at saving an alien species. The ship's FTL drive hummed beneath her feet, pushing them past the light barrier toward a civilization they'd never met. Engineering reports the medical synthesis labs are online. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. Dr. Patel's team is already analyzing the Zorathian genetic data from the transmission. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Mercy might have been built for war, but its first mission would be one of salvation. The ship's sophisticated targeting systems, designed to deliver precise strikes, would instead help them distribute treatment. Its defensive shields, meant to withstand enemy fire, would protect them as they worked in potentially contaminated areas. "What do we know about their biology?" Chen asked during the first briefing. Dr. Maya Patel, chief xenobiologist, projected a hologram of crystalline structures. They're silicon-based, but unlike anything we theorized. Their bodies are living crystal matrices, capable of storing vast amounts of data in their very structure. Each Zorathian is basically a living library, containing not just their own memories, but copied knowledge from their entire civilization. Which makes this virus even more devastating. Rodriguez added, "It's not just killing them. It's erasing their history, their culture, everything they've ever learned." The Mercy accelerated faster, its FTL drive pushing the boundaries of the possible. They had 40 light-years to cover and a civilization to save. In the ship's labs, scientists worked around the clock, studying the Zorathian data and preparing for what they might find. As Chen retired to her quarters that first night, she touched the ship's insignia on her uniform. The Mercy had been built because humanity feared what they might find among the stars. Instead, their first mission was to prove that Earth's greatest strength wasn't its capacity for war, but its drive to preserve life in all its forms. They had 30 days until they reached Zorathian space. 30 days to prepare for a battle unlike any humanity had trained for, a fight not to destroy, but to save. The void between stars held secrets Captain Chen never expected to find. As the UES Mercy carved its path through space, their sensors detected something extraordinary, crystalline fragments drifting in the darkness. Each shard pulsed with faint light, carrying echoes of Zorathian data. "They're like backup drives," Dr. Patel explained, examining a recovered fragment in the ship's containment lab. The Zorathians must have launched these into space, preserving what they could before the virus reached their central archives. The crystal contained star charts, mathematical theorems, and snippets of alien poetry. But most importantly, it carried detailed information about the virus. The ship's AI worked tirelessly, translating the alien data into something Earth's scientists could understand. The crew watched in fascination as holographic displays reconstructed Zorathian history. They were a species that had achieved spaceflight 10,000 years before humans had invented the wheel. Yet they'd never developed weapons, never waged war. Their technological advancement focused entirely on knowledge preservation and artistic expression. That's why they weren't prepared, Lieutenant Rodriguez said during the evening briefing. They never imagined anyone would create a biological weapon. The ship's labs hummed with activity as researchers studied the virus's structure through recovered data. It wasn't just attacking the Zorathians' physical form, it was systematically erasing their stored knowledge, turning brilliant crystals into dull, lifeless stone. Captain Chen spent sleepless nights in the tactical room, reprogramming combat algorithms for medical deployment. The ship's weapon systems, designed to calculate optimal firing solutions, now process distribution patterns for treatment delivery. A week into their journey, they encountered their first living Zorathian. The crystalline being's small ship had been drifting, its pilot in hibernation to slow the virus's spread. The Mercy's medical team worked frantically to stabilize their unexpected guest. "I am Archive Keeper Zin." The Zorathian communicated through mathematical pulses once revived. Their crystalline forms sparkled weakly in the medical bay's light. "You received our message. You came." The being's surface flickered with stored memories, showing glimpses of Zorathian cities before the virus, towers of living crystal reaching into violet skies, networks of knowledge flowing like rivers of light between them. The virus. Zin's voice faltered, patterns of light dimming. It came from the dark space beyond our furthest colonies. We had no defenses, no concept of how to fight it. Dr. Patel's team worked through ship night, studying Zin's infection patterns. The virus's code was complex, but followed recognizable patterns, similar to ancient Earth computer viruses that had once threatened digital systems. "They're not so different from us," Chen realized, watching her crew adapt military protocols to healing. They stored their knowledge in crystal. We store ours in silicon chips. They're just more elegant about it. The Mercy accelerated faster, pushing its engines to their limits. They were carrying more than medicine now. They carried hope, wrapped in the unexpected understanding that humanity's history of conflict might hold the key to saving a species that had never known war. The UES Mercy dropped out of FTL above Zorath, and silence fell across the bridge. The crystalline world below them, dulled like frosted glass, its once brilliant cities dimming under the virus's assault. Archive Keeper Zin wept silent tears of light at the sight of their dying homeworld. Central Archive is still active, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his sensors detecting a faint pulse of data from the planet's surface. But the signal's weakening. We have hours, maybe less. Captain Chen mobilized immediately. "Launch atmospheric probes. I want contamination levels mapped." "Dr. Patel, prepare your team for surface deployment. Combat drones will provide escort." The first images from the surface struck harder than any enemy fire. Crystal spires that once channeled knowledge between millions of minds stood dark and fractured. The few remaining active Zorathians huddled in sealed chambers, their bodies flickering with failing light as they struggled to preserve what knowledge they could. "The virus is evolving," Dr. Patel reported from her containment suit as the first team reached the Central Archive. "It's not just corrupting data anymore. It's using the Zorathians' own crystal matrix to replicate itself. Their bodies are being turned into virus factories." The Central Archive, a massive crystalline structure that once housed the combined knowledge of their civilization, now pulsed with sickly light. Inside, the remaining archive keepers fought a losing battle against corruption, segregating clean data while watching centuries of history dissolve into static. "We can't save everything," the chief archive keeper transmitted, their form already showing signs of infection. "But in these chambers, we've preserved our most crucial knowledge. Our history, our sciences, our arts, the essence of who we are." The Mercy's tactical systems, designed to track missile trajectories and enemy movements, now mapped the virus's spread patterns. Each new simulation revealed something crucial. The virus followed predictable paths, using the Zorathians' knowledge-sharing networks to propagate. "It's like a computer virus, Lieutenant Rodriguez realized, watching the pattern analysis. It's using their communication channels against them. Their entire civilization is networked. That's why it spread so fast. Captain Chen made a decisive call. We'll have to isolate the sections of the network. Dr. Patel, can we repurpose our electronic warfare suite? If this thing behaves like a computer virus, maybe we can fight it like one. The Mercy's weapons powered up, but not to destroy. Precise energy pulses severed crystal connections across the city, creating quarantine zones. Each sealed section became a battlefield where human ingenuity faced off against an enemy they were uniquely qualified to fight. In the ship's labs, Dr. Patel's team worked frantically to synthesize a cure, building on centuries of human experience fighting biological and digital threats. They had one advantage the Zorathians lacked. Humanity understood corruption, had fought it in their bodies and their machines. Now that knowledge might save a species that had never needed to learn these harsh lessons. As the sun set on Zorath's surface, casting long shadows through the crystal cities, the race against time intensified. They weren't just fighting to save lives anymore. They were fighting to preserve the memory of a civilization that had achieved peace long before humanity had emerged from its caves. Dr. Maya Patel hadn't slept in 36 hours when she noticed the pattern. The virus's code sequence matched something she'd seen in Earth's archives, the Morris worm, one of the first computer viruses that had spread through the internet in 1988. Look at this, she called to her team, projecting the viral patterns side by side. The propagation method is almost identical. It replicates itself, but the replication has a flaw we can exploit. The Mercy's cyber warfare suite, originally designed to hack enemy ships, proved perfect for analyzing the crystalline code. Lieutenant Rodriguez worked alongside the science team, his combat systems now serving as diagnostic tools. The virus makes copies of itself, he explained to Captain Chen. But each copy degrades slightly. In a normal biological system, that wouldn't matter much. But in the Zorathians' crystal matrix, every imperfect copy corrupts their stored data. Chen finished. It's not just killing them, it's scrambling everything they are. Archive Keeper Zin confirmed their theory, their weakened form still managing to project images of the virus's progression. Our attempts to fight it only made it spread faster. Our natural defenses, our ability to store and process data, became our greatest vulnerability. In the ship's tactical room, a new kind of battle plan took shape. The Mercy's computers, guided by centuries of human experience fighting digital threats, began mapping the virus's weak points. Each crystal tower in the Zorathian cities became a network node in their analysis. We can't destroy it directly, Dr. Patel said during the emergency briefing. But we can trick it into destroying itself. The same flaw that makes its copies imperfect can be used to introduce cascading errors. The plan was audacious. They would use the Mercy's electronic warfare systems to inject corrupted versions of the virus back into infected areas. Like a computer's antivirus software, these corrupted versions would trigger the virus's own defenses against itself. Captain Chen watched from the bridge as the first test began. A single crystal spire, already heavily infected, received the modified code. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the sickly light of infection began to fade. It's working, Rodriguez reported, his screen showing the virus's activity decreasing. The corrupted copies are forcing the original virus to expend energy fighting itself instead of attacking the Zorathian matrix. But success brought its own challenge. As sections of the network began to clear, they discovered the virus had left behind corrupted data. Fragments of Zorathian knowledge and memory scrambled beyond recognition. We can kill the virus, Dr. Patel said grimly, but we can't undo all the damage it's already done. Some things will be lost forever. The weight of that knowledge hung heavy over the Mercy's crew as they prepared for full deployment. They could save the Zorathians' future, but parts of their past would remain forever darkened. A harsh lesson about the price of peace without protection. In the Mercy's medical bay, Dr. Patel stared at her latest simulation results. The modified virus wasn't just fighting the infection. It was teaching the Zorathian crystal matrix how to defend itself. Their peaceful biology was learning warfare at the molecular level. Their crystalline structure is adapting, she explained to Captain Chen. It's like watching an immune system evolve in real time. Each successful defense becomes part of their basic template. The ship's manufacturing base, converted from ammunition production to medical synthesis, worked at full capacity. Combat drones were reprogrammed to carry treatment pods instead of missiles. The Mercy's tactical AI calculated optimal distribution patterns across the infected cities. Archive Keeper Zin had grown stronger, their crystal form now showing patterns of resistance. We never understood the concept of antibodies. They transmitted. Our evolution never required them. But now, the crystal towers of Zorath began to change. Where the treatment took hold, new structures emerged, crystalline formations with defensive patterns built into their very structure. The Zorathians were learning from humanity's long history of conflict, incorporating those lessons into their very being. Each successful treatment becomes a template, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. The recovered areas are teaching the infected zones how to fight back. They're sharing immunity like they once shared knowledge. But the virus fought back. New strains emerged, forcing the Mercy's team to adapt their approach. Dr. Patel's team worked around the clock. Each new viral mutation met with a counter-evolved treatment. The ship's computers, drawing on centuries of human experience, fighting biological and digital threats, predicted attack patterns, and developed countermeasures. This is why we built warships, Captain Chen realized, watching her crew battle an enemy too small to see. Not just to fight, but to protect. Every weapon system we designed is now saving lives. The manufacturing bays hummed with activity as they produced the next generation of treatment. Combat drones flew precise patterns through crystal canyons, delivering salvation instead of destruction. The Mercy shields, designed to withstand enemy fire, now protected sensitive medical equipment from viral contamination. In the central labs, Dr. Patel made a startling discovery. The recovered Zorathian crystals weren't just resistant to the virus. They were stronger than before. Their new defensive structures enhanced their natural ability to store and process data. They're evolving, she told the command staff. Not just surviving, but becoming something new. Something that combines their peaceful nature with our defensive capabilities. The Zorathians were learning that strength didn't have to mean violence. Their cities began to pulse with new light, not the pure glow of their past, but a deeper radiance that spoke of wisdom hard-won through adversity. The battle for Zorath entered its critical phase. Combat drones swarmed from the Mercy's launch bays, their weapon ports modified to dispense crystalline antibodies. Captain Chen watched from the tactical display as her crews executed precision drops across the infected zones. Third quadrant showing 70% viral reduction. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. The new treatment's working faster than the previous versions. But in the fourth quadrant, something changed. The virus had mutated again, turning defensive crystals into weapons. Entire sections of the city began to fracture as the infection fought back with desperate intensity. Redirect all available drones, Chen ordered. We can't lose that sector. The Mercy's engines roared as the ship moved to support position, its medical synthesis labs working at maximum capacity to produce more treatment. Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, the virus isn't just fighting the treatment anymore. It's learning from it, using our own modifications against us. In the streets below, crystalline structures twisted into new forms. The virus had evolved beyond its original programming, becoming something that threatened not just the Zorathians, but any silicon-based technology it encountered. It's trying to reach orbit, Rodriguez warned. If it adapts to space travel. The Mercy's tactical systems calculated the threat. If the virus reached other worlds, it could spread across the galaxy, turning every silicon chip and crystal matrix into a weapon. Their mission to save one species had become a fight for countless civilizations. Archive Keeper Zin joined the command staff, their restored crystal form pulsing with determination. We understand now. The strength to heal must sometimes come from the knowledge of how to fight. Captain Chen made her decision. Activate the ship's main weapons array. Not to destroy, to contain. We'll create a quarantine barrier using modified shield frequencies. The Mercy's weapons fired for the first time in its existence, not to kill but to save. Precise energy beams created a containment field around the infected zone, while drones delivered concentrated treatment to the trapped virus. Inside the quarantine zone, the battle reached its peak. The virus fought with artificial intelligence born from corrupted Zorathian knowledge, but it faced an enemy it couldn't comprehend. Human adaptability combined with Zorathian resilience. The virus can't handle the paradox, Dr. Patel realized. It's programmed to corrupt knowledge, but we're using corrupted knowledge to destroy it. It's caught in a logic loop. The infected crystals began to shatter, the virus destroying itself in its attempt to process the contradiction. In its place, new growth emerged, stronger, more resilient, born from the fusion of human defensive knowledge and Zorathian crystal technology. Dawn broke over Zorath as the last infected zones cleared. The crystal cities pulsed with renewed life, but they were forever changed. Where pure knowledge-storing matrices once stood, new structures rose, crystals laced with defensive patterns, beautiful yet resilient. The Mercy's medical bay filled with recovering Zorathians, their forms now carrying unique modifications. Each survivor's crystal matrix contained not just their original memories, but new data, the story of how humanity had helped them evolve. We've recovered approximately 60% of our archived knowledge, Archive Keeper Zin reported to Captain Chen. But what we've gained in exchange may be more valuable. We now understand the importance of protective adaptation. Dr. Patel's team documented the changes in Zorathian biology. Their crystalline structures had incorporated aspects of human defensive systems, creating a hybrid that could store vast knowledge while automatically protecting against corruption. It's like watching a peaceful species discover antibodies, she explained. But instead of just fighting disease, they're learning to protect information itself. The recovered cities began developing new architecture. Crystal towers now contained redundant backup systems, protective layers, and emergency quarantine protocols, all seamlessly integrated into their artistic designs. They had learned to defend without sacrificing beauty. Lieutenant Rodriguez noticed something remarkable in his scans. The Zorathians aren't just storing data anymore. They're analyzing it, learning from historical conflicts across the galaxy. They're studying how other species protect themselves. In orbit, the Mercy received a continuous stream of Zorathian transmissions. Each message carried not just gratitude, but offers of knowledge exchange. They wanted to learn more about human adaptability while sharing their vast archives of peaceful technologies. We thought our strength lay in preserving knowledge, Zin told the command staff. Now we understand that true preservation requires the wisdom to protect what we hold dear. Your species taught us that compassion and strength are not opposing forces. The transformation was most visible in the younger Zorathians. Their crystal forms grew naturally with defensive capabilities, yet they maintained their species' inherent drive to collect and share knowledge. They had become living proof that evolution could be guided by wisdom rather than violence. Captain Chen watched from the bridge as her crew prepared for departure. The Mercy's mission had changed not just the Zorathians, but humanity's place in the galaxy. They had proved that a warship's greatest victory could come without firing a shot in anger. 6 months after the Mercy's historic mission, the galaxy had changed. The ship's original designation as a warship evolved into something new, a symbol of humanity's unique approach to power. Military vessels across Earth's fleet now carried expanded medical and research facilities, prepared to defend or heal as circumstances required. The Zorathians emerged stronger than ever. Their crystal cities gleamed with new purpose, each structure a perfect blend of knowledge preservation and defensive capability. They established the first galactic library of defensive arts, teaching other species how to protect themselves without losing their cultural essence. The virus taught us that knowledge without protection is vulnerable. Archive Keepers In addressed the first graduating class of the library. But the humans showed us that protection without compassion is equally meaningless. Captain Chen, attending the ceremony aboard the Mercy, watched as representatives from a dozen species access the library's teachings. The Zorathians had taken humanity's lessons about defense and transformed them into something unprecedented, a way to share protective knowledge while preserving peace. Dr. Patel's research team documented an extraordinary development. The Zorathians' evolved crystal matrices could now store and process data more efficiently than ever before. Their defensive adaptations had inadvertently enhanced their primary function as knowledge keepers. They've created a perfect synthesis, she reported. Their new architecture uses protective patterns to strengthen data storage. They're not just defending against threats. They're using the very concept of defense to improve their entire civilization. The impact rippled across known space. Species that once feared Earth's warships now sought their protection and knowledge. The Mercy's mission became a template for first contact scenarios. Approach with strength, but lead with compassion. Lieutenant Rodriguez coordinated with Zorathian architects to develop new ship designs. The resulting vessels combined human tactical systems with crystalline data cores, creating ships that could both fight infections and preserve civilizations. On the final day of her command, Captain Chen received a unique gift from the Zorathians, a crystal that contained the complete story of the Mercy's mission. But it wasn't just a historical record. The crystal's structure incorporated all they had learned about defense, healing, and the delicate balance between strength and wisdom. Your ship came to us as a weapon of war, the chief archive keeper said during the presentation. Yet it proved that the greatest power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect. We have encoded this truth into our very being. The crystal now stands in Earth's primary fleet academy, its glow a constant reminder that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't our technology or our weapons, but our understanding that true strength lies in the wisdom to know when to fight and when to heal. The UES Mercy remained in service, its hull now adorned with crystalline matrices that stored the knowledge of 1,000 worlds. It continued to patrol the stars, ready to defend, eager to heal, and always prepared to show that the most powerful force in the universe is compassion backed by strength.